Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be going over the newly released Fortnite update, Update 10.20. After a string of mostly underwhelming updates so far in Season X, a lot of people are expecting this update to be pretty major, and I definitely don't think it disappointed in that regard. In terms of whether or not the update is going to have an overall positive impact on the game, well, that part's up for debate. We got a major change to building in Fortnite, a new item, some noteworthy vaulted weapon/items, another significant nerf to the Brute, more changes to the map, as well as a few other things as well. I think there's a bunch of really good changes in this update, but there's also a really controversial one, which ever since its announcement, has created a bunch of negative reactions from the Fortnite community. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so let's not beat around the bush here and start this discussion off with the most impactful and also the most controversial gameplay change from Update 10.20. Increase the time between subsequent turbo build placements from 0.05 seconds to 0.15 seconds. The first placement of a structure using turbo build still remains the same. So although that may not sound like the most insane change in the world, it's actually way more important than you would probably imagine at first. As the patch notes stated, before this change, turbo building would place a new structure every 0.05 seconds. Now that's obviously insanely fast, way faster than any human being can naturally click the build button, and it's the main reason why the vast majority of players use turbo build practically every time they build anything in Fortnite. The most obvious impact of this being changed from 0.05 seconds to 0.15 seconds is the impact that it's going to have on turtling. When you're just boxed up holding down R2/RT to spam walls and prevent your enemy from getting inside, that's now obviously going to be a much less successful strategy. And I believe this may be an attempt by Epic to make wall replacing a bit more even no matter what your ping is. Because before this change, the advantage of having 0 or single digit ping in box fights was pretty ridiculous. Now, is slowing down turbo build the best way to achieve this, and will it even work in the end? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But the other part of this nerf that I'm most concerned about is how it'll affect regular building. Like I said, since turbo building was so ridiculously fast, pretty much everybody would turbo build 24/7. And don't get me wrong, 0.15 seconds per structure is still really fast, but you can also look at that as being 3 times slower than what it's been for a very long time now. My biggest fear that seems to be coming true so far is that it's going to make building feel really clunky, and especially for high ping players, certain building combinations such as super complicated ramp rushes or high ground retakes may be impossible to properly execute now, or at the very least way less consistent. Again, this is one of those things that only time will tell, and maybe players will get used to it eventually, but based on my experiences with it so far, it doesn't seem good at all. Everything just feels delayed and basically like you're trying to build while lagging or playing on a ridiculously high ping. But that's just my opinion, and if you've played at all since this turbo build change, let me know if you've noticed the difference, and also if you would say the difference seems good or bad so far. Moving on, let's discuss the 3 vaulted weapons/items in Update 10.20, as well as the brand new item which was also added. So first, the 3 vaults we have are the Storm Flip, the Drum Gun, and the Storm Scout Sniper Rifle. So starting with the Storm Flip, basically this was an item that's been problematic ever since it was added into the game. Especially in competitive, it was so bad that they basically had to manually disable it from every competitive event as well as regular arena mode. In public matches, it actually wasn't that bad due to the damage nerf it got early on, but I don't think this is an item that anyone will really miss. The drum gun is a pretty interesting vault as well. I'm sure a lot of you guys remember how overpowered this thing was at the end of Season 8 after it was unvaulted, and it was still really good at the beginning of Season 9. But ever since the final nerf it received, it really hasn't been viable just due to how much better the silenced SMG and maybe even the burst SMG ended up being. So an interesting vault, but one that I don't really feel is too impactful. And finally, we have the Storm Scout Sniper. Now this vault has actually been met with a little bit of criticism, especially from the competitive community. This weapon was pretty unique due to the fact that it would basically show you where the next safe zone is going to be, which is obviously really important for competitive. The weapon itself also seemed to actually be one of the more balanced snipers in the entire game, so I don't think this is an absolutely game-changing vault, but there are definitely other weapons I would have preferred. Cough cough drum shotgun. And the new item added to the game in update 10.20 is the Shield Bubble. It's a blue rarity item that once thrown lasts for 30 seconds. It creates a large bubble that blocks projectiles and explosives, however, players can still run through it. Projectiles and explosives can be fired from inside the bubble, but can't go outside of it. The bubble's emitter has 400 HP, and destroying that deactivates the bubble. So this actually seems like a really interesting new item that has a bunch of potential uses. I imagine the most common use will be when an enemy you're dealing with is medium to long range away, and then you throw this and treat it as a much stronger 1x1 which will protect you and allow you to heal / revive a teammate. I do think that 30 seconds is a little bit long, but since it only has 400 health, you should be able to destroy it significantly quicker than that in most situations, and I think that keeps it much more balanced. The next patch note I want to discuss is another major nerf to the Brute. A few days ago, Epic released what was basically a hotfix that pretty much nerfed every meaningful aspect of the Brute, and it's a lot less overpowered now because of that. But Epic decided to go a step further and introduce the following change. The Brute's map icon will remain visible to all players after players board one. The icon will follow the vehicle as it moves. So I feel like that's a fairly self-explanatory change, and the impact of it is obvious. Previously, whenever somebody boarded a Brute, it would disappear on the minimap as long as the player was inside of it. But now that it'll continue to show on the map as it moves around, it basically means that you'll know where all the Brutes are at all times. Therefore, you can choose to avoid them if you want to, or take them head on if that's more your style. I personally really like this change. Moving on, let's discuss the new map change that occurred in update 10.20. At the Oasis near Paradise Palms, a rift beacon has created the Pandora Rift Zone. While at the Rift Zone, players will begin to generate shield after 4 seconds of not taking damage, and this will be available until September 10th. So the gameplay changes at these Rift Zones have been super controversial so far in Season X, but this one actually seems really cool. Fortnite could always use some more non-RNG ways to generate shield in their game, so this is definitely my favorite Rift Zone gameplay change we've seen so far. And the final change I want to discuss in this video involves moving zones at the end of matches. In public matches only, Storm safe zones will no longer move while shrinking in the later phases of a match. Now this was actually introduced into the game a few days ago, on August 23rd to be exact, but the people who noticed it thought it was just a glitch because it had never officially been announced by Epic. But now we know that this is a permanent change, and it's the way public match endgames are gonna work from now on. I personally liked moving endgame circles because I think it added an extra level of skill to winning endgames, but to be honest, it's rare that public matches even get to that point, so I'm not gonna act like this is some horrible change that's gonna totally ruin Fortnite. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts on any of the changes involved in this new Fortnite update 10.20. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.